I'm gonna...
I hope it's... I mean, that's only going to be cool if we're actually live.
8 was the magic number last week.
Guess what?
Yeah, right on, dude. See? I told you.
You told me.
I cracked it open. I said 8 will be it.
No, I said this is the one.
Oh, I thought you said I hope this is the one.
No. Alright, this is the one. And we're live!
Here we are.
Welcome to Going Deep Underground once again.
Happy Thursday.
With Scott and Rick.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Happy Thursday.
So, we found that it takes us 8 times to go live before it actually goes live.
I don't know why. I don't know why it does that. We're talking about our streaming technology. Maybe it's your laptop.
What? Why would it be my laptop?
I don't know.
So, you should buy me a new laptop.
Well, sure. I guess I should buy you a new laptop. I guess I should. Let's go.
If you'd like to donate to Rick's new laptop fund. So
I don't even have anything funny to say to that. I couldn't even think of anything. I'm dialed down tonight. I'm sad.
When I came in and you were half passed out on the couch at 7:30 at night. All right, everybody. So we're here for another live episode of Going Deep Underground. October is behind us. The couple episodes we did in October were all about paranormal stuff with Halloween. So discussing what we wanted to talk about tonight, you came up with an idea. I won't get into it, but you're going through a pretty major life change, and somebody recommended a book that has impacted you. So why don't you just talk a little bit about that?
What up, BJ? Yeah, definitely. That is accurate. And so that's been on my mind a lot. And, also our buddy who's not here tonight is going through some shit, It's just, I think a lot of people are going through just some shit right now. It's just this year, and it's crazy. And, we're on day 3 of the election, trying to figure out what's going on with that.
It's only been 3 days?
Well, it was Tuesday,
Seems
Wednesday,
like it's been
and Thursday
like a week
night.
already.
I know. Mercury's been in retrograde. Pluto's been in retrograde.
Everybody's cooped up, ready to explode. So there's a lot going on.
We're trying to, we're really big on going out and going and seeing live music. And we had tickets to go see Pearl Jam on middle of April 20th, somewhere around there. Maybe not the 20th, but that got canceled in that first week. And, there hasn't been a real sign of when things are going to get back to normal, and people are just kind of sad right now. And so when we were talking the other day about what we're going to talk about, and kind of listening to our buddy and what he was going through, and like Rick said, I'm going through a personal thing right now that's just really heavy. And I brought up this book that BJ recommended to me, and I just thought, you know what, this whole idea for this show is to talk about some concepts that we maybe allude to in the underground when we're interviewing people, and we don't get a whole lot of time to talk about it. So,
well, it's just that, going deep underground, the reason that came to mind as a title for this is because we wanted to, we discussed, we'd done a couple of the, what we called mini-sodes. We knew we wanted to do more content, and we decided we wanted to discuss some of the things. A lot of the things that we discuss in the underground, some things we may or may not, but some of the things we may not have an opportunity in the underground to really delve into certain topics. And so this gives us that platform to go a little bit deeper.
Yeah. So if anybody's watching this and is kind of going through some struggles right now, maybe this episode will help you out, because the information that we're going to be talking about tonight has been really beneficial. And I'm going to back up a little bit. And I'm going to preface this that those of you that have watched the show, maybe you know that I work in the coaching industry, helping whether it's business owners or individuals, kind of in that transformation process, people wanting to get to a little bit more of an evolved state of thinking, want to stop allowing the subconscious thoughts and the ego to run the show. Like I lived my whole life up until probably around 2010, 2011, somewhere around there, where I finally started realizing that those first thoughts that we have are not always going to be the best thoughts that we can come up with. In fact, in the reading that I've done and the years that I've been, working on self-transformation, one of the people that I've gravitated towards is Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's a neuroscientist. And I was watching one of his videos the other day, and I'm sure he's not the first person to say this, so I'm not going to quote that it's him, but he did say it in this video that by the time we're 35 years old, 95% of what we do is just automatic, subconscious responses that we don't even have to even think about. I could say to you, checking account. And you automatically have emotional responses because your neurons fire and trigger because of the memories and those experiences and those emotions.
It's kind of freaky to think about that.
How?
Because, we talk about being in a matrix and all that stuff, but when you think about that, we're pre-programmed.
Yeah.
Essentially what he's saying is we've been programmed.
Yes.
To where now we're just living by that program.
Right. Well, it's interesting because in the book that I was reading, and I've alluded to this many times before when talking to clients, that when you're born, you're not programmed with that. And I've always used the analogy of, speaking of laptops, when you get a brand new laptop, how fast does it operate? You open it up and you turn it on and man, it's up and running and it's ready to go because it hasn't picked up any of the malware or any of the cookies that just slow it down. And so by the time you're 35 years old, you've just downloaded all of these malware and all of this stuff that's just slowing you down. It's paradigms, it's growing up around certain people and family and friends and developing their ideas about things. And so it's just those automatic responses. So these things that we're going to be talking about tonight, this is stuff that I talk about with my clients. This is stuff that for years I've been teaching about being able to stop those automatic programmed responses and be able to step back from more of a logical sense rather than just emotion. We've both read the book The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino, and in those scrolls that he introduces to the readers, if you haven't read The Greatest Salesman in the World, it's a phenomenal book. It's not about being a salesperson. It's about being good at life. It's about being able to get past some of the hangups and the bad habits that we've developed. But in one of these 10 scrolls that he introduces the readers to, he's talking about being master of emotions, not allowing our emotions to control us. And that's just it, is when you step back and look at habits and emotions, it's that 95%.
Well, that's probably the hardest thing too. Like when you're dealing with any situation, to get to the point where you don't allow emotions to control how you react to things.
Right.
And even when you get to the point where you realize it and you understand it and you are able to catch yourself, it doesn't mean you don't just flip the switch to where now I don't let my emotions control me.
No. I mean, I would definitely not be as bold to say that I'm super evolved, but I know I'm more evolved than I was 16 years ago when I was going through divorce with my first wife, and my ego was just running the show, and just the horrible things that I would say and we would talk about, and all that. And I mean, I'm not going to beat around the bush. Rick's alluded to the fact that I'm going through kind of a tough situation. Jen and I are separating and going through a divorce, and so it's only been about a month, and it was a total shock. And I'm not going to go into reasons why, but we love and care about each other, and we're supporting each other. But those memories connected back to the old divorce, and the fear there triggers those emotions.
Well, and the ego kicks in, which we'll talk a lot about that tonight, but the ego kicks in and makes you, why me? Why is this happening to me? Why am I in this situation? And
we're actually gonna be feeling
sorry for yourself, and that's part of that ego.
Yeah. And like Rick was just saying, you can have all the tools in the toolbox and you can understand these things. And I do. I have those tools. I teach those tools. But in the moment, when you're feeling the burden and feeling buried with this grief, it's hard to kick those tools in.
So you and I have talked about this before, but Scott and I are both certified law of attraction practitioners. So we went through certification, through training, and got that certification. And I've told you this before, that when I got my certificate, it said to the effect, Rick Howard is officially a certified law of attraction practitioner. And that word practitioner,
you hadn't really heard that word before?
No, I know the word practitioner, but I was thinking it was going to say law of attraction coach, or just that word practitioner. I was like, what is that about? Like, why is it practitioner? Why isn't it coach or something? And it wasn't until later where I kind of realized is that when you're going through this process of learning, and like we're talking about now, dealing with your emotions and not letting them control you, even like I said a minute ago, even though you understand it and know it, it's something that you're always practicing. You're constantly having to be reminded of it, and there's going to be times where you don't remember and you still let your emotions and ego take over. It's all about being able to catch yourself in those moments and continually practicing the techniques that help you do better the next time.
I think the word you're looking for is awareness. You're aware, and so you practice it. So jump forward now, or actually back a little bit to a few weeks ago, and I had posted something and just was kind of telling people, sharing this news, but yet that Jen and I are still supporting one another, and we've both been through high conflict divorce before, which is the last thing that we want. We want to be able to support each other. We love each other. We care about each other. We have a family together. So we're doing everything in our conscious awareness state to be able to be in the right place. So as I had posted this, I had a friend BJ reached out, and she shared that there was a book that helped her when she was going through a really similar situation. And it was applying the Buddhism philosophies of, psychology of the mind to this process of conscious uncoupling. I think that was a phrase that, not Ben Affleck,
Gwyneth
Paltrow and the lead singer from Coldplay, when they were announcing that they were separating, it was a conscious uncoupling. And I remember thinking how weird it sounded at the time.
Well, I was going to ask you, growing up, you'd hear about Buddhism.
Oh, yeah.
But what did you think about Buddhism back then?
Do you remember the scene in Airport?
Yep.
Or Airplane?
The Hare Krishnas.
The Hare Krishna people, the hippies, the ringing the bells, the coming up and the bald heads, and the chanting and the
it was just kind of this weird
position.
Fringe religion that we didn't understand. We didn't know all that much about, except for what we saw in movies and stuff.
And what my parents would say about it, if they, it was weird. It was foreign. It wasn't Mormon. It wasn't what I was used to. And so I didn't really pay it any attention. But it's been as I've evolved.
So, but then even as an adult, once you hear about this conscious uncoupling, it's still like, I know it's been a long time ago.
Yeah.
Still, but I'm just saying, still as an adult, we still had that notion of what Buddhism was and what that whole, it was just
unfamiliar.
Yeah.
It's unfamiliar. And so if it's unfamiliar, it's easy to just dismiss
weird.
it. It's easy to be ignorant, which is one of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight. So when BJ was talking to me about this book, I said, that's amazing, because that sounds exactly like what's going on with Jen and I, of just being able to support her. And I remember just about the first week where I was really struggling. I was really having a hard time. And she and I were talking, and I think that's one of the hallmarks of our relationship is that we've always been able to communicate with each other. And so I was expressing some of my feelings and talking with her, and she was sharing some things with me. And I said, it's been really painful. And this is one of those philosophies of Buddhism, is that the pain is going to happen, but the suffering doesn't have to happen. You can become aware of it. You can become aware. And so she said, so what are you doing to become aware of it? And I said, well, I'm breathing. When I notice that I'm feeling that sadness, I'll breathe. I'll fill my lungs and take a deep breath, because usually what's happening is if you're feeling those emotions starting to get control, that cortisol is kicking in, and that's that fight or flight hormone. And so you start getting worked up. And so I'll take a deep breath and I'll get the oxygen to the front part of my brain where it belongs, where the logic and the reason is at. But I said to her, tomorrow, here's what I want to do. I said, because I know that every day is different when you're going through something like this, whether it's a divorce or the loss of a loved one or, any type of grief, really. It's just a ebb and flow day to day, different, from one day to the next. And I said, here's what I want to do tomorrow is when I feel that pain, I'm actually going to step back from my pain, and I want to ask myself, what is she experiencing right now?
I was just going to say, it's all kind of about the perspective you come at it from.
Yeah.
And you tend to, your first reaction tends to be from the perspective of why me? Yeah.
Of yours.
Right.
Yeah, that's so natural.
The selfish, why is this happening to me?
Right. Why is she doing this to me? Why is this happening? And I'm, like I said before, we have a really kind of unique situation, so I'm not going to go into it. But for me to be able to step back, and I'm not trying to toot my horn here or anything, I'm trying to get to the point, but to be able to step back and go, instead of focusing on my pain, why don't I practice a little compassion for her and put myself in her shoes? How does it feel to be her? How does it feel to be the situation that she's in right now? And it worked for that day. That next day, it really worked. And then I think it was the next day or the day after that BJ reached out and was telling me about this book. And one of the main components that it talks about is just the ability to have compassion for the other person in the situation.
So what's the book?
So the book is called Storms Can't Hurt the Sky. The author's name is Gabriel Cohen.
And it's about...
It is Buddhist Path Through Divorce is really what it is. And so I want to go ahead and just jump into kind of the meat and potatoes, the main part of what he's been talking about to where I'm at. I'm about halfway through. I'm about at page 124. And for any of you that have ever studied any type of Buddhism or are familiar with it, like I said before, it's not really religion, because there's not a deity that you're praying to. In fact, I remember years ago reading an article of a Catholic priest who said, I'm a Catholic priest, but I'm also a Buddhist, because Buddhism is just about understanding how the mind works and not falling into the mental traps that so many of us just set for ourselves. And so as I was, I forgot what I was just going to say right there, because I know I was alluding to...
See if you can remember. One of the things so when you told me that you wanted to talk about this, I said, I don't know. I've never done any research into Buddhism or anything. So I told you, I was like, I don't know how much I'm going to have to contribute. So I knew I was going to have to
Neither have I.
And I knew I was going to have to do a little research. And one of the things I found out is that Buddhism isn't just one thing. There's different branches of Buddhism. Yeah. And some of them have a little bit different teachings than others. Some of them prescribe to certain things that other ones don't. And that's one thing I
think there's three main branches is what I've come across. This has definitely sparked my interest in that, because it goes along so much with what I have been studying and teaching and believing for the last decade. So it's really been kind of a beautiful just reminder of everything that I know and that everything that I need to be doing.
So, as far as you said, you're about halfway through. So, what's the main thing that you've taken from it? Like, what's been the most impactful part?
Okay, so where I'm at right now, he's talking about the Buddha informed of poisons in the mind, and said that there's 3 main poisons that will really affect the mind. And the first thing is connecting our happiness to something outside of us. So it's attachment. And what that would look like is when I get the new car, then I'm going to be happy. When I can buy that guitar,
When I
I'm going to
get
be
the
happy.
bigger house.
When I get that, oh man, when we can get out of this place that we're in right now, then I'm going to be happy. And it's such a false notion, because if that was the case, well then when you got out of that house, or if you got the guitar, you would never have to work at being happy again.
Well, it's like I mentioned to you when your situation first started, and I still can't remember where this came from. I was listening to somebody being interviewed. I don't know who it was or where it was, to be honest, but they were some kind of therapist or whatnot, and marriage counselor or something, and they said whenever I talk to somebody who's going through a separation like that, I tell them the first thing they need to do before they start looking at getting back into relationships is to work on themselves.
Yeah.
Because if you can't be happy and satisfied with yourself, you're never going to be able to find that in a relationship. So regardless of whether it's a relationship or it's that car you mentioned or a house or whatever it is, you've got to be okay and happy just in yourself.
Right.
Because you cannot look at outside things to bring that happiness.
Attachment to other ideas, other concepts, a people, a person, a thing, an inanimate object, something. The happiness has to be inside.
Okay.
And this is something that Sean's, reinforced multiple times. He's said the same thing to me that you've said to me as you guys have picked me up and kind of carried me through the last, month or so. In just reiterating the importance that, dude, you've got to be happy.
Because here's the problem is that if you do rely on outside things to bring your happiness, as soon as you get that thing, now you start becoming unhappy. You're gonna be on a little bit of a high for a little while, and I think that tricks you into thinking you're happy. But then that high comes down, and you realize you're not happy.
Well,
so
because
now you're looking.
True happiness isn't found in an object.
Well,
or
right.
another
That's what I'm
person.
saying. So now you're looking for the next thing that's going to bring the happiness.
Right.
So it's like in your situation, we talked about, you've got to be happy with yourself before looking for other relationships. So you're not looking to have your happiness come from another relationship because you're just replicating the system.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like I told you, and we've always shared a lot of personal stuff with you guys who've watched the show with us. So I feel comfortable. I can't see you, so I don't know what anybody's saying or thinking, and I really don't care what anybody says or thinks. But I shared with Rick that I know, actually, before I shared with you, I was talking with Stacy, and she said, become aware of the things that you do that are bad, that you normally will rush out and do. Become aware of the things that might stop you from really truly being able to just be okay, and just don't do those things. And that's when I shared with you that I know, just this revelation that, in past relationships, anytime I've broken up because of insecurities, because of my inability to just be happy with who I was back in those days, I'd always race out and just find something to fill that hole. When you're grieving, you're looking for a place to give that love, and you've said it and Sean said it, that you got to give the love to yourself. You've got to be happy with yourself, because if not, you're going to find yourself in the second poison of the mind that the Buddha spoke about. With the first one is attachment, the second one is aversion. So understanding what that means is, let's just say, is this a paranormal episode? So let's just say
Just laundry.
Your attachment was relationship. I'll be happy when I'm in a relationship. Well, Now you find yourself in the relationship, but what happens when you're in a relationship? Relationships are work. Relationships create chaos.
You have this vision of what your ideal relationship is, and you're anticipating that bringing you happiness. But then when you get into real life and you realize this is more work than I pictured it.
But also, that person that you're with now can do things that make you unhappy. I mean, how many times have you and I talked, or you and Sean and I talked, in the 25 years that we've known each other, about relationships and about being unhappy in the relationship? And the question is, man, I just need to get out of this relationship, whether it's a marriage or a girl that we've been dating or a job, and so it's that aversion, thinking that I can get rid of that thing and then I'll be happy. It's that false pretense that my happiness is connected again to another thing, and that's just not the way that it's supposed to be. We're meant to be happy regardless of anything else that's going on around us.
So you're in this vicious cycle. I'll only be happy when I gain this thing. Now I've gained this thing, I'm not happy. Now I'll be happy when I get rid of this thing.
Yeah.
So then what's the next?
The third poison is ignorance. And the ignorance comes when it's, how could they be doing this to me? In fact, in the book I was reading last night, he tells a story and says, imagine you're floating on a lake and you're laying on your back on a boat, on just this rowboat, and you're looking up at the sky, and just as peaceful as can be. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, your boat gets rammed by another boat. Instantly, you're going to wonder, who the hell just ran into my boat? Why did they hit me? Didn't they see me? And it's that focus on the self in that way of how could they do this to me?
I've thought about this, like driving a car, like when I'm driving and somebody does something that could have caused an accident. And I just think, is your first reaction in a situation like that, is everyone okay? Are they okay? Am I okay? Is everyone okay? Or is your first reaction, what in the hell are they doing? Why did they do that? They could have messed up my car.
I can't believe you just did that. Right. And so back to this story about the boat, but I do want to come back to that because I think that's important. He says, then the guy in the boat stands up and realizes it was just a boat that drifted into him. And instantly, that feeling of self-importance goes away because he realizes it wasn't somebody that intentionally did something to him. It was just a thing that happened.
But even then, a lot of times I think your mind goes, what stupid idiot let their boat go and drift into my boat?
That's ignorance.
Oh, I know.
That's just, it's funny because I thought the same thing. I thought, well, then I'd be pissed off going, who's got their boat running around here? But I remember when I was working with my coach back in 2009 when I was working with Joe. And we were talking about this frustration that I have just in life in general with other people and with things like this. And he said, give me an example. I said, well, perfect example. Being on the road, just the idiots on the road that are cutting me off or riding my bumper, just all that stuff. And he said, are you open to some advice? And I said, yeah, go ahead. He said, quit being so full of yourself. He said, this is a big world. Don't be so ignorant, was basically what he was saying. Quit thinking that everybody on this earth is walking around with a personal grudge to try to piss you off and make you upset.
So I had pretty much the same conversation with Joe back when I was working with him.
Oh, I told him that he needed to tell you that. I'm kidding. I didn't say that.
No, so we've talked about Joe before, and when we were doing marketing coaching and we had the opportunity to work with Joe, and that's like we talked about that.
And did it blow your mind?
And he's just like, okay, I want you to think about something. When you see somebody who's racing up on you and they're tailgating you and they zoom around you and your first reaction might be, what the hell are they doing? Why do they have to give whatever? It's like, you know what? Maybe there's an emergency that they're trying to get to.
Maybe they're
just
about to crap their pants.
Maybe just changing your mindset from the ignorance, the ego of saying, why are they doing this because it's affecting me,
Right.
to saying, hey, I don't know what their situation is.
Right.
They could be racing to the hospital. Or,
They might be about to say goodbye to a loved one.
Yeah.
They might be racing to be with a baby that's being born.
And really, I think the whole point of that practice is to just let go of the anger that comes along with the ego. Just understanding that I'm much happier when I don't have that anger inside me. So by looking at it from that perspective, even though there's probably a good chance that they're just speeding.
Oh, they're just unaware.
But
it's not about you.
Right.
But yet we make it about ourselves.
By looking at it from that other perspective of who knows what their situation is. Maybe they're going to the hospital. Maybe they've got a loved one who's in trouble they're racing to. Whatever. It puts you in a position where you don't let that anger sink in. And you're just much more happy without it.
Well, this is what Og Mandino, I think, is talking about in The Greatest Salesman in the World, in those scrolls, where he says, today I will be master of my emotions. Wise is he who allows his actions to control his emotions and not the other way around.
So, like I said, when I started doing research, I found that there were different facets of Buddhism, one of which is the Mahayana. And one of the things that I found that, like I said, some prescribe to different things. Instead of the 3 poisons, they have the 5 poisons.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
And they add pride and envy.
Yeah.
And that was the one that sort of, like, those 2 added in there with the other 3, I think made a lot of sense to me, because how much unhappiness, frustration, sadness comes from pride and envy.
Yeah.
We're prideful, that causes all kinds of problems. But being envious of other people and what they have, you go back to, we were discussing abundance and lack today.
I was just going to say.
It puts you in a situation where you're focusing on your lack because you're so envious of somebody else's abundance.
And now you're tapping subconsciously into the law of attraction, focusing on lack. What are you going to attract more of? You're going to attract more lack. And so that warning to go out there and say, look, be grateful. Just be thankful. This situation that I'm in right now, the way that I'm navigating it is I'm just looking at it going, I'm so grateful that Jen and I got to spend 12 years together. I'm so thankful for the opportunity of who I got to become because of her and the people that she brought into my life, and the challenges, or the opportunity that came disguised as challenges, I should say, to evolve and to be a better person. And looking at it like that with compassion and gratitude, and realizing that she's not responsible for my happiness. I'm the one that's responsible. She's not doing this to me. This is not my problem. This is something that's about her. And when I read that in that whole ignorant section of this book, where it was saying that once you realize that this decision is being made by somebody else, it's not me. This is not my problem. It makes it easier. In fact, there was that quote by Eckhart Tolle. I'm going to grab it because I read that and I wanted to share that here. Oh, crap. I'll just pull it up on here. Let's see. Eckhart Tolle is kind of one of my favorite spiritual gurus that's out there. Let me just see here. Right there. That's the one. When you realize it's not personal, there's no longer... I know you can't. I'm reading it. When you realize it's not personal, there's no longer a compulsion to react as if it were. So I breathe. I get through it. We get through these things. And, I know there's other people that are out there right now that are going through similar type things. We've got friends that are going through situations. And I just wanted to get on here tonight and just talk about this stuff, because I think that if you can consider this, look, if you can just consider what the Buddha is saying, Separate your happiness from attachments to situations and outcomes and things and possessions and attracting people into your life. Be aware when your ego is telling you, run away from this. This is causing you unhappiness, versus this is just a situation. My happiness comes from within. My happiness comes from inside of me. And then the third, of the ignorance of not taking things so personally. I remember that was the big advice that my coach gave to me. Stop taking everything so damn personally, and stop being so ignorant in thinking that so many other people out there are thinking about you. People are making decisions every day all over this world that have nothing to do with us, but yet are pre-programmed, subconscious. 95% of the things we do by we're 35 responses have just trained us to start taking things personally. And that's the feedback here, is start becoming aware when that kicks in. It's work. Definitely is. What Rick said was true. It's not like the switch is just flipped and it's automatic. I mean, I even work with Joe, and Joe has his moments where he falls into these traps. You have them. I have them. It's just part of what happens. So the book is called Storms Can't Hurt the Sky by Gabriel Cohen. BJ, the recommendation for this has been just, I mean, it just backed up everything that I was intending to be focused on, and it just was a sign from the universe that I was in the right direction, because it's completely just in harmony with the focus that Jen and I were having when we first started talking about this. So just wanted to share that tonight. I don't know who needs to hear this. I'm sure somebody will stumble into it, because that's the way this shit happens.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Are we done?
That's kind of seemed like a ending. Till next time. Bye,
Thanks for
everybody.
watching, everybody. Take care.